With the latest chapter of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, we got the answer to a question that I'm pretty sure everyone was asking within the first few chapters of 2 Blue Vortex, and that's why Boruto isn't using karma, and can he even use karma to begin with. I've always thought that Boruto couldn't use his karma, and I turned out to be right, but the reason why he can't use it hasn't been stated, but I'm pretty sure we all know why. It's because of Momoshiki and the possibility of Boruto losing control and causing major destruction. The last few times Momoshiki came out, he was definitely a threat, but it wouldn't be as bad as if Boruto lost control now. Before, Boruto didn't have as much power as he does now, so although Momo was extremely powerful, he wasn't unstoppable and always had somebody there to keep him in check in the end. Besides the first time. He kinda did his business and just left. The second time, it was Sasuke and Kawaki, and the third time, it was just Kawaki after regaining his karma. The last time, things almost went horrible for Boruto and everybody involved. Momoshiki almost killed Naruto and almost took Kawaki for himself so he can feed him to the Ten Tails later. If it weren't for Amato implanting a karma in Kawaki without his consent, things most likely wouldn't have ended up nicely for Naruto and everyone else. But now that Boruto is one of the strongest in the verse, Momoshiki coming out might be one of, if not the worst thing that can happen right now. Momoshiki's strength inside Boruto now would be incredible and probably above anyone that is currently in the manga. However, we're not there yet and probably have a long way to go till we get to that point. To the point where Momoshiki will take over Boruto's body. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about why Momoshiki is near and how his presence is being felt even while he hasn't even had one panel into Blue Vortex thus far. If you like videos like this one, be sure to like the video, comment on some video ideas I can cover in the future, and subscribe with post notifications on so you don't miss when I upload another video. First, I wanted to give a little recap of what happened in chapter 9 with Boruto's karma. Boruto returned to the village again after hearing about the Shinju attacking Konoha. After he teleports in, he's almost immediately greeted by Kawaki and they get into a little fight with Boruto obviously embarrassing Kawaki. He calls Kawaki pitiful and asks if he's been training at all right before Kawaki activates his karma. Due to resonance, Boruto's karma starts to spread and the toad on his neck even has to advise Boruto to leave and create distance between him and Kawaki before he loses control, with Boruto having no choice but to listen to his advice. It's no secret that karma has always been a problem for Boruto. Even when he seemed to be able to control it a little in part 1, there's always been the chance of him losing control to Momoshiki. In fact, as time went on, it would seem that taking over Boruto's body was getting easier for Momoshiki. The first 2 times he took over Boruto's body, it was mainly because of Boruto's lack of chakra or being unconscious, but the last 2 times Momoshiki took over seemed a little different. When he changed face against Code, Boruto was having a heart attack due to the medication side effects he was taking in order to suppress Momoshiki. But even before the heart attack, Boruto was completely awake and was actually getting ready to use his full power against Code. He didn't seem to be low on chakra at all either, but Momoshiki was still able to take control over Boruto's body. The last time he took over, it was only because of the eye slash that Boruto got by saving Sarada from Kawaki. Boruto also wasn't low on chakra in this instance either, but once again, Momoshiki took control and helped Kawaki to get away, which would all lead into a butterfly effect ending in omnipotence. The first 2 times, Boruto at least had to be out of chakra or unconscious in order for Momoshiki to take control, but the last 2 times, it would seem like Boruto only needed to take enough damage, whether internally or externally, but that's not even the worst part. Something I didn't mention about the time Momo took over against Code was the fact that this time, he actually stopped time right before he took over Boruto's body. Boruto even comments that it felt like that time way back when he defeated Momoshiki. In the time skip, it would seem that things have gotten even worse than they were before. It's as if karma is more sensitive for Boruto than ever before. Boruto can't even activate karma without losing control, whereas before he could at least activate it and use it to his benefit. But now, it would seem that Momoshiki is bound to come out if Boruto has karma on for a little too long. If Momoshiki were to come out now, it really would be a devastating sight. Keep in mind the difference between Boruto and all his forms in part 1 and Momoshiki when he changes face with Boruto. The boost that he gets is massive, and Code even calls it true Otsutsuki power. Now imagine how powerful Boruto is right now and how big of an ant Momoshiki taking over his body would be. Boruto is already taking down characters like Code with ease, who's stronger than Jigen, who's stronger than Naruto and Sasuke in their primes combined. If Momoshiki would end up coming out now, he would probably be able to do whatever he wants with nobody to stand in his way. We know Momoshiki is definitely plotting on how he can take over Boruto's body, since that's his only option for freedom because he can't revive anymore. He even said in part 1 when he was talking to Boruto after just leaving his house, promising his mom he will come back home. He told Boruto that he shouldn't make promises he can't keep and asked him why does he cling to life when he knows he'll only only despair in the future. He said that the day Boruto will lose everything is rapidly approaching, which already did happen in the form of omnipotence, but that's not the important part to this conversation. Momoshiki tells Boruto that Boruto will despair and he'll lose his will to live, enough to escape the world. And when that day comes, Momoshiki will take over and live the life of Boruto Uzumaki for him. Now, Momoshiki did plan for this to happen when Boruto lost everything like in chapter 79, but that ended up not happening. Boruto still has his will to live and even looked adversity in the face and said his name was Boruto Uzumaki. However, although it didn't happen now, it's not like Momoshiki can't make this happen in the future. Boruto's despair doesn't seem to be slowing down and things are only getting worse for him. Even after omnipotence and losing his own lineage, Sasuke was there by his side thanks to Sarada. Sasuke was the only thing Boruto had left, and even that got taken away from him. When Shikamaru is talking to Boruto about dealing with Kawaki, Shikamaru says he doesn't want to tell everyone what Kawaki did in order to not back Kawaki into a corner. He says that Boruto will have to stay a fugitive, and when he asks if Boruto is okay with that, Boruto says it's fine and that he wasn't expecting otherwise. Boruto believes that there's no way for things to go back to normal because that would mean switching back the effects of omnipotence, which seems impossible right now. So Boruto has accepted the fact that this is his role and he will forever have to endure with this outcome. I'm pretty sure Boruto knows his despair isn't over and that things won't be getting better for him. All he can do is try to prevent the worst from happening, and if he can do that, then he succeeded. But there's only so much someone can take, and I think Boruto will reach his breaking point that will lead to Momoshiki's reappearance. Between losing everything, Sasuke being turned into a tree, Kawaki on his tail every time he comes to the village, and the Shinju hunting him and even Himawari, Boruto might not be able to handle it all mentally. His personality has already changed and he's not the same Boruto anymore. Even after losing everything, it would seem that Sasuke being around him was the only thing keeping him from truly despairing. Even when Boruto was being accused of killing his own father by Team 10, Momoshiki definitely seemed to be getting to him a little bit, and if it wasn't for Sasuke saving him, who knows what would have happened. But after losing Sasuke, it would seem Boruto got a wake-up call. He's a lot more serious and straight to business than he was before, but I don't think any of you need me to tell you this. His attitude and how he carries himself is blatantly different than when he was 12 or even 13 years old. But I don't think this attitude changes for nothing. Boruto is definitely hurting inside, but he's sticking to his beliefs and ideologies and is doing exactly what he should be doing. He's enduring everything and is sticking to the shinobi way, and that's what a shinobi is meant to be. But even though Boruto is staying strong, the possibility of him losing control to Momoshiki is still there and seems to be only getting worse. It's no wonder Boruto got so strong in his base. It's probably because he had no other option. In part 1, he was at least willing to use karma if it meant that he needed it in order to defeat an enemy. But after chapter 9, we know that Boruto can't even so much as activate karma, or else he'll end up losing control. Something interesting about Boruto losing control by just activating his karma is that Kashin Koji is the one that says it, implying that he might have seen Boruto lose control or at least begin to lose control during the time skip. We have no idea what could have made Momoshiki come out if he did come out during the time skip, but we can talk about some possible reasons as to how he would come out in the present day, since I think that's bound to happen at some point in Blue Vortex. One obvious way Momoshiki might come out is due to karma's resonance with Kawaki. I'm pretty sure everybody thought of one thing when Kawaki found out Boruto can't control his karma: that he might force Boruto's karma to activate, making Boruto lose control of Momoshiki, making Momoshiki rampage on the village. It's definitely something to think about, especially with Boruto slowly gaining back the trust that was lost after omnipotence one by one. We've already seen Kawaki trying to frame and gaslight multiple times in order to make sure people still think Boruto is the enemy, which in turn just makes it easier for Kawaki to accomplish his goal of killing Boruto. Like I said earlier, we know Kawaki is someone that will go through great lengths in order to achieve his goals. Amado even says Kawaki is just like him in that aspect. Whatever Kawaki is scheming, it can't be good, and I would be willing to bet money that Kawaki is thinking of pulling off something devious with the fact that he just learned Boruto can't control his karma. Another way Momoshiki can take over that was always possible was by Boruto overexhausting himself and losing too much chakra. In just 9 chapters, he's fought Code, 3 of the Shinju and Mitsuki, and even got into a little scuffle with Kawaki before he had to get away. It's sort of unclear if this is all happening in one day, but if that is the case, case, then Boruto is handling a lot right now. Not to mention that his sister Himawari is still being targeted by Juro and Hidari, and they're currently in the village with Boruto being the only one capable of protecting it. Boruto is definitely strong, there's no doubt about that, but going through all this fighting, especially with the Shinju that were able to press him into retreating, is probably all doing a number on Boruto. He might not be able to handle all of the constant battles, and as a result, Momoshiki will take over and do what he pleases. I don't think this one is likely to happen, but I'm just throwing out ways Momoshiki could take over Boruto's body, since like I said, this is definitely something that's going to happen in the manga. I just don't actually think Momoshiki will take over while Boruto is exhausted or out of chakra. I actually think when Momoshiki does eventually take over Boruto's body again, that it will be because Boruto can't handle things anymore emotionally and gives up on his will to live, at least temporarily. There's something about that conversation Momoshiki and Boruto had in part 1 that definitely feels like foreshadowing for what could be coming. We know Boruto's life won't be easy at all, even from here. As the years go by, he's just taking on more and more responsibilities, and they're usually for the protection of others. From watching over Sarada, trying to save Sarada, watching over his little sister, and just making sure the planet doesn't die to the Shinju or to Code, Boruto has to deal with it all, and he's almost always alone. I said earlier that the bad things that have happened to Boruto are starting to take a toll on him. He's not the same happy-go-lucky boy that he used to be. It's possible that something could happen to Sarada while she's in a fight with Hidari that at this point seems destined to happen. Or maybe even Himawari with Juro targeting her, but I think that's less likely than something happening to Sarada. There is a scene in chapter 6 of Two Blue Vortex where Boruto says he swears to save Sasuke as well as everyone who has been turned into a tree. He tries to continue as if he had someone else to mention, but stopped and said that he'll be back. Ever since that scene, there's been a bunch of people saying that they think he was referring to Sarada and that Boruto saw a future where Sarada was killed. Now I also don't think this would be the case either, and I think Boruto was actually talking about Naruto here and not Sarada. Remember that Sarada still doesn't know that Naruto is alive and safe somewhere. Naruto being dead is just alive by Kawaki in order to keep him alive and take out all things threatening his life. But Boruto also can't just mention that Naruto is alive in the village so lightly, especially not in the situation he was in. Not only was he out in the open in the village, but Boruto probably just wanted to be cautious about who could hear him at the moment. Not only were Shikamaru and Ino listening, but Sumire and Sarada are also there along with Mitsuki. It's probably something he didn't want them to know in the moment, since they would probably act irrationally, letting people know what Kawaki has done, which we know is something Boruto and Shikamaru want to prevent in order to not have Kawaki go crazy on them again. While I think it's possible that something will end up happening to Sarada that would possibly make Boruto lose his mind and give in to Momoshiki, I don't think this is foreshadowing towards that moment. To be honest, I don't know what would make Boruto lose his will to live, because Boruto has been mentally strong the whole series. When going through adversity in the form of losing almost everything that made up his identity, he flexes his lineage, says he's still a shinobi, and says he'll show everyone that his name is Boruto Uzumaki. When Boruto is a threat to everyone else including his father due to Momoshiki, he tells Kawaki that they'll have to go with their last resort plan, which meant that Kawaki would kill Boruto if Momoshiki came out again. Boruto sacrifices himself for his friends, family, and the village, which is something that Sasuke told him about in the last arc, about being ready to die at any moment for the sake of the village. Momoshiki even comments on how Boruto's mental resolve is crazy and starts to get worried that he won't be able to steal Boruto's body. While Momoshiki did expect to be able to make Boruto despair enough in order to take his body, Boruto showed him that it would take much more than that to make him give up on life. Whichever way it happens, I do think what Momoshiki said to Boruto about him despairing enough to escape the world is definitely going to happen at some point. But I also wouldn't be surprised if what Boruto said to Momoshiki were to happen as well. At some point, Boruto will have to face his demons head on and find a way to win that battle. I have no idea how Boruto would be able to make Momoshiki despair, but eventually Boruto will have to be able to control Momoshiki. Unless they were to work together, which I pray to God that doesn't happen. It's a plot point that I feel like would be a miss if it wasn't touched on for multiple reasons. Not only would it be cool just to see Boruto and Momoshiki go back and forth on who's really in control, but if Boruto doesn't deal with Momoshiki, how will Kawaki ever be okay with the fact that an Otsutsuki is just lingering around? Not only will Boruto have to deal with this demon for himself, but also for Kawaki to feel comfortable and satisfied with whatever the results end up being. Enough to release Naruto without worrying about his safety. Maybe Boruto will have to give something up in order to be rid of Momoshiki, since it does seem like something he might not be able to do alone. It's a lot different than what Naruto had to deal with in Kurama. It's not even like we're dealing with Momoshiki's physical body and Boruto can just beat him into submission. Momoshiki's soul is what's attached to Boruto, and I doubt that Boruto can just start physically beating Momoshiki whenever he sees him. This is definitely a mental game that they're playing, and whatever the solution is to fixing the Momoshiki issue, it's definitely not something Boruto can deal with just by being strong. I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait for this to play out in the manga and see how Boruto will deal with this in the future. All in all though, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new, until next time.